Hello, everybody. It is Monday, November 3rd, and welcome back to the Nick Watkins Show. I'm Nick Watkins. It is the 62nd episode of the show, but for the first time, we have a guest on the podcast today. So please welcome Noah Levesque. Noah, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on the Nick Watkins Show.
Uh, Thank you for being here. We have a lot to talk about. So much has happened over the past week or so in every sport, basically. But we'll start with football and with what was, in my opinion, probably the best week of football, at least for a Sunday, that we've had this season. So let's get into it. The Week 9 recap of the NFL. The Falcons went into Foxborough to take on the Patriots, and Drake London had a career day, including a one-handed touchdown catch on 4th and goal, but the kicker missed the extra point. Patriots hold on and win 24 to 23, improving to 7 and 2 on the year. Another team going into the day hoping to become 7 and 2 were the Denver Broncos, who continued their fourth quarter magic against the Texans, who lost C.J. Stroud to injury in the first half. Denver wins on a walk-off field goal, 18 to 15, the final from Houston. Noah's Pittsburgh Steelers, much maligned defense, finally locked in against the best offense in football and forced 6 turnovers, 5 of them from Daniel Jones, and they beat the Indianapolis Colts 27 to 20 in a bounce back win, and the Colts finally look human for the first time this year. The Chargers charged into Tennessee and outlasted Cam Ward and the Titans 27 to 20. Bryce Young returned to action this week as the Panthers went into Green Bay to take on the Pack and beat them in a major upset win. Panthers 16 to 13 on a walk-off field goal. The Lions hosted J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings at Ford Field, and the NFC North matchup got flipped upside down when the Vikings blocked a potential Jake Bates field goal, allowing them to take a two-score lead and hold on to win that game 27 to 24 Vikings over the Lions. The Bengals and the Bears squared off in a shootout. It started with a 98-yard kick return to start off the game. DJ Moore threw for and ran for a touchdown in the game. And on the Bengals side, Joe Flacco, still got it, threw for 470 yards. T. Higgins had an unbelievable catch to score a touchdown as a part of his day. 7 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. The two teams combined for over 1,000 yards. The Bengals recovered an onside kick to take the lead. They scored 2 touchdowns in less than a minute, and the defense sold the bag at the end of the game. The Bears, with a massive touchdown from Williams to Loveland, the Bengals defense forgot how to tackle, and he scored a touchdown. Bears win the potential game of the year, 47 to 42. The Niners traveled to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Football Giants on the worst turf on earth in the history of ever. CMC dominated again, and which is a common theme this year. Another common theme this year is the 49ers losing players. Michael Williams, first round draft pick out of Georgia, out with an ACL tear. Feared to be out with ACL tear. 34-24 Niners win. The Rams beat the Saints in Puka Nakua's return, although he got hurt again. We'll have to watch that. 34-10 final score from SoFi. The Raiders and Jaguars went to overtime after 60 minutes. That included the longest field goal in NFL history from Little. And when in Vegas, you gamble. Both teams gambled in overtime. 4th and goal for the Jags from the 1-yard line. They scored a touchdown. The Raiders responded with a touchdown of their own. They gambled, going for 2 points, got batted down at the line of scrimmage. Jags win 30-29. The Bills and Chiefs met for the 11th time in the last 5 years, and the Bills continue to dominate the regular season matchups between the two. Can they change the narrative in the postseason? Looks so this year, if the Chiefs even make it. Currently the 8th seed, not even in the playoffs here in Week 9. Bills win 28-21. Sunday Night Football, blowout. The Seahawks crushed the Commies as Darnold shines, but Jaden Daniels, nasty injury, nasty arm injury, maybe out for the year, probably out for the year. Seahawks win 38-14. 12 games yesterday, 9 of them decided by one score. The best week of the year so far. Noah, what are your thoughts on yesterday?
It was amazing football about
It was a great week. Your Steelers, their defense they held a funeral for the defense outside of the stadium before the game, and I guess they saw that and took that personally. They held the Colts to, well, it says 397 yards, but you're saying most of it garbage time. But the big one that stands out, 6 turnovers for Indianapolis. Um, and the team that uh, coming into the week was the best team in football, and they looked like the top dog in the AFC. They look human for the first time this year. 6 turnovers. How do you feel about your defense yesterday?
it was amazing for around the last 2 3 weeks. I've been just terrible with defense. I've been able to do whatever they want. I 2 weeks ago, Marquise had 16 catches against us, which was just like absolutely unacceptable against the Bengals, which was a team that we should be able to beat. It's the first time in I don't know how long our offense is actually like pretty good this year. So if our defense can step up like they did yesterday, we have a chance to be a good playoff team. Win a game in the playoffs. Perfect wins to me.
Yes.
If our offense can really power, defense can make some stops. I think we're a great team.
Speaking of winning the division in the NFC North, the Bengals dropped the game yesterday, and this was just a unbelievable game. I don't. It's so hard to describe these games because just an absolute shootout. They scored combined 31 points in the fourth quarter. They got everything, a little bit of everything in this game. Started with a kickoff return for a touchdown on the first play of the game. You had a Philly special from the Bears on fourth and goal. Um, Bengals for the Bears on fourth and goal. The Bengals recovered an onside kick to go down and take the lead, and then um, I don't even know how to describe what happened on the Bears' last touchdown. I mean, the Bengals just forgot how to tackle. It seemed like 58-yard touchdown to the backup tight end, Colston Loveland, who had a monster game after Komet went out. But I mean, this Bengals team, it's just fun to watch how bad the defense is and how good the offense is.
The defense is so bad it's getting the offense involved, which is insane how the offense just dividing out like the Chase and Chase Brown. Mostly it looks like it's such a big battle. How bad this defense is doing. So
I mean, I'd feel that. I mean, if your franchise quarterback goes down and you're thinking, okay, all hope is lost. You get blown out by the Vikings, blown out by the Broncos, and then here comes Joe Flacco, the savior of Cincinnati, uh, coming in. Um, and in the first half he played, he looked pretty shaky, but ever since then he's been great. He looks like the Joe Flacco that took Cleveland to postseason a couple years ago. And if you have such a good offense with Brown and then of course Higgins and Chase, two of the best receivers in football. I mean, I would be mad too. If you put up 516 yards of offense, put up 42 points, and your defense allows 47, um, I'd completely understand that. So
that what happens
that was
when
the.
our upsets say
Oh, go ahead.
how bad upsets that's what happens when you pay like 40% of your salary to like three players because it's just not a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the crazy game from a crazy week of football. There were uh, big kicks that went in for some teams to help them win the game. There were missed kicks that caused the Falcons to lose their game. There was a 68-yard field goal to, uh, you know, help the Jaguars. win their game. It obviously wasn't a game winner, but 68 yards, longest field goal in NFL history, and that's something that I've been thinking about. I can't remember if I mentioned it before here on the show, but kickers these days are just nuts. They're like what the stuff they're doing is like, and how far they're kicking it from, and how consistently. You look at guys like your Boswell and Aubrey, and even Pinheiro on the Niners. What a breath of fresh air he is compared to Jake Moody. Um, but Pinheiro hit from he hit a big one today, or yesterday rather, 54. Um, and if you think about like 5 years ago, even at 54 yards, the guy's like, wow, what a great field goal. And now it's expected that you're supposed to make those, and that's pretty crazy that how kickers are nowadays. It's pretty wild to think about. Uh, yeah, like I said, game-winning field goals for the Broncos and Panthers. And the Colts obviously losing, and that brings me to the point that um, in previous years of football, it feels like there's been one or two teams that are just above the rest. Obviously, there are good teams and there are elite teams, but then there's the elite of the elite, And like last year, kind of thinking of the Eagles and the Chiefs even. But this year, with the Colts loss and um, you know, the Packers lost as well. Those are probably the two. Those are the teams that were at the top of each conference, respectfully, and they both lost, and they both did not look good in those losses. And it kind of brings up the point that there really isn't a top dog in the NFL this year. There are bad teams, obviously. There are plenty of those, and then there are good teams, and the good teams are very evenly matched. Um, this year, there's no top dog.
Yeah, Jimmy, I feel like there's no team that's super exciting football, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. There's there's definitely a any given Sunday mentality that's happening this year. If you look at the AFC, Colts, Patriots, Broncos, all 7-2. That's the 1, 2, 3, and then your Steelers 5-3 are the 4 seed. And if you look at the wild card picture, you got the Bills, the Chargers, and the Jaguars. Bills are 6-2, Chargers 6-3, Jaguars 5-3, and the Chiefs are 5-4. After that, it's just a whole bunch of losing teams. So the AFC has a lot of bad teams, but the Ravens are still lurking around, and of course the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they're probably going to make it. But there are a lot of good teams in the AFC that are very evenly matched. The, the entirety of the playoffs, there are 7 teams in the picture right now, or well, okay, there's 8 teams in the picture right now, and the 1 seed has 2 losses, and the 8 seed has 4 losses. So it's very close there. And in the NFC, it's really even closer. You got the Eagles and the Bucks and the Seahawks and the Rams and the 49ers all have 6 wins, and that's uh, and then the Packers are 5-2-1. So you know it's really close all across the board, and that makes it very exciting. Um, Very exciting for football this year.
Yeah, 100%.
So looking ahead to, actually, hold on, let's go back. We haven't talked about the Niners yet. It was a nice bounce back win for the Niners. It was 34 points, which is great. I talked about it yesterday how the time of possession would be a big for us in this game, and how last game the Texans dominated time of possession. We had the ball for like 15 minutes, it seemed like. We won the time of possession 33-26. And then the big part that I think of is in the red zone, 4 for 5 when we got down into the red area. That was a big problem last year without McCaffrey not being able to, punch it in for 6 when we get down there. 4 for 5 is really good. Um, and then of course Eddie Pinheiro being, him also helps. But we scored a lot. We scored in every quarter, and that's big. The defense did give up 24 to the Scatterboo less Giants, but That's going to happen when everybody and their mother is injured. And we lost another one. Michael went down. So we'll have to look ahead to next week, see how it goes with the defense against a much better LA Rams team, which is um, just a huge matchup in terms of NFC West standings with the Seahawks, Rams, and Niners all winning yesterday. So that was Sunday. What a great day it was. And then looking ahead to tonight, Monday Night Football in Dallas, where the Cardinals, who have lost five in a row, take on the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, who's honestly, as much as I don't like the guy as a player, he's a nice guy, but as a player, I can't stand him. He's having a great year. He's not necessarily the favorite for the MVP, but 2,069 passing yards, 16 touchdowns to five picks. Dak is having a very nice year down in Dallas.
You
And
know, if there's ever a year where it could be an MVP that's not a quarterback, it could be this year. I feel like, because like you said, Dak is great at playing past that year, but the only one standing out as the number one guy, and to me, I think Jonathan Taylor right now is an MVP quarterback, quarterback candidate,
I agree.
because
That's a
he's
great
just
point.
absolutely transformed the Colts offense, and when he's healthy, man, he's taken over Jay Young. I think he's more impactful to his team than pretty much anybody else.
I totally agree with that. I remember 2021 was it where he just went ballistic and he was running over everybody, and
Yep.
he's doing that again this year. Uh, you guys shut him down yesterday in terms of the touchdown department, but before that, coming into yesterday, in three touchdowns in each of the last three games before yesterday, and obviously McCaffrey is McCaffrey, and he's so great that he's healthy. Um, we talked about the kickers before. I think the same thing happening with the running backs. If you look at all like the great running backs in the league, you got McCaffrey and Taylor and Robinson and Henry and Saquon Barkley. Don't forget about him. There's the A tier for running backs, or the S tier, depending on how you want to say it. The top tier for running backs. There's so many good ones, and I guess we keep talking about all this. Like, I guess the point that this is all leading to is that football is really exciting this year. Like everything that we talked about so far, this is a great year for football so far, and I'm just really looking forward to what the second half of the season is going to bring. All right, so that was football. Busy, busy day yesterday. Now let's transition into hockey. We have the hockey expert over here. Um, he knows everything there is to know about hockey. But first, let's just talk about. We have to get the Sharks in there. Um, the Sharks, who are now 4-6-3 after losing to the Detroit Red Wings in a shootout. Celebrini scored, which we always have to mention. Wait, did he score? Never mind. I thought he did. I guess he didn't. Dickinson scored though his first career goal for the top, or not the top pick, but one of the top picks for us this year. Um, and then yeah, lost in a shootout to Detroit. Still got a point though. The Ducks beat the Devils 4-1. Flames over the Flyers 2-1. Islanders beat the Blue Jackets 3-2, and the Lightning beat the Mammoth 4-2. That was what happened in hockey yesterday. So I guess I really don't necessarily know that much about hockey, but since we have the expert here, Noah, how do you feel about the first almost a month into the season? How are you feeling about the year so far?
Well, I just want to go back on the Sharks and say that I've been honestly like pretty impressed about how they've been playing. I think that um, maybe even next year, I think they might have a conversation because this team is taking some steps and some producing that they really superstar like that's ultimately to lead. And you know, you got to extend Dickinson out here and start getting 45 games in 2019.
first place in the East.
because right now it's definitely huge step forward in points between Hockey and Canada. But there's a lot to like in the Hockey South Island. Of course, very entertaining. Um, there's also, I think, it's definitely some talent. It's definitely a deeper competition. I'd say right now with Hockey Canada. It's looked amazing first overall pick from last year. Lots of young teams to look at, and just some exciting hockey in the future. A lot like a lot like football. I would say look forward to this year.
I wasn't necessarily, paying attention or watching hockey as much. Obviously, when you think about the 2016 Sharks, I was all over them. But ever like once all once we traded away all those guys, I kind of stopped watching. But I remember seeing the that commercial. Obviously, I'm not familiar with the guys, but where they're talking about for the commercial for the NHL, where they're talking about like this is the next golden age of hockey, and you really feel that like there's a lot of young, exciting talent, then also like the established guys who are already like they've been doing their thing for a long time, like McDavid and guys like them. Like hockey is it's enjoyable to watch, especially if you go to a game. Like my brother has never watched a Sharks game in his life, but we went on Thursday to the Sharks Devils game, and he enjoyed it so much. And it just goes to show, man, that a point that I like to talk about on this show is that sports are awesome, and hockey is definitely one of the better sports right now. But just looking at the standings, you got the Canadians in first place in the East. In the Atlantic, the Red Wings and Lightning follow them. And then in the Metro, you get the Devils, Penguins, Hurricanes. Both wild card teams are in the Metro with the Blue Jackets and the Rangers. And the West, it's mostly Central teams that are good. The Avalanche, the Jets, the Mammoth. I did they make the playoffs last year?
They just missed it. They were a couple points, a few points out, so that's a good last year.
It's not like they're an expansion team, but it definitely feels that way. With the
Yeah,
move and
definitely.
like they were established before, but they have a name now, and I guess they're doing well for themselves up in Utah. They're in third, and then the Stars have the sixth seed. But looking at the Pacific, where the Sharks are, it's it's not necessarily wide open, but it is open. The Ducks have won 7 of their last 10. They're in first place in the Pacific, the 4 seed in the West, with 15 points. And the Sharks are seventh in the West. They have 11 points. So that's a really, like we were saying about the NFL playoffs, and those seedings. Like it's pretty tight in the Pacific. Not saying that the Sharks are gonna make it this year, but you know, it would be nice. I'm not gonna get my hopes up, but there's definitely a chance for some surprise teams to make it this year. And like we were saying for baseball, uh, if once you get in, anything can happen. And I think that's we still got a long way to go. We're not even a month into the year, but I think it's exciting, and I think it's gonna be a great year.
Coming from experience, I haven't been able for the last 4 years, so any sign of like good hockey is just amazing to see. And you're feeling like that sometimes when the last year team that's not supposed to be playing well play well. And I think with the Sharks winning it takes that more. I'm excited to see them grow.
It's definitely looking forward to it. The Habs next game is on Tuesday, hosting the Flyers, and the Sharks next game is up in the Pacific Northwest against the Kraken. That is on Wednesday. Um, so yeah, that's good that we got a little hockey in there because I could probably talk about how awesome Celebrini is, and that's where my knowledge stops. So now let's get into the the part that we both don't necessarily want to talk about for separate reasons. You are not happy about it because the Blue Jays lost, and I'm not happy about it because the Dodgers won. But still, we both share the same feelings of disappointment, I would say. Um, the Dodgers on Saturday. They're having their parade right now. Um, they won the World Series in 7 games. Game 7 went 11. Dodgers 5 over the Blue Jays 4. Uh, Noah, the Blue Jays fan, how are you, kind of taking it?
You know, I feel like I should be more disappointed, but honestly, aside from winning the World Series, I'm genuinely not Levesque for a better season as a fan, especially coming off last year with 74 wins. He proved that to win in 94 wins here. Those wins in every game. You don't win in every inning. The lineup was genuinely some of the best shots in contact. Pretty solid pitching, to be honest with you. I was pleased that we had such a great run in. That was, we were so close. We were getting to win the World Series. I mean, there's so many things I can say that we kind of run with the team, but um, yeah, I'm disappointed. Obviously, it's still makes me happy that I haven't seen it work out, and I hope going for next year, we sign O'Shea and that. So
That's a very mature uh, response to to how the season ended. I'll be livid, but that's a a good attitude to have, I guess. But like you were saying though, the 2 outs away, and the game 7 went 11 innings. It took 2 extra innings to decide who the champion was going to be. It's This series was so extremely close. The margin for error was razor thin. Um, so I guess there are so many points in every single game you can nitpick for both sides, saying, well, if this happened, then this would have happened. But there are plenty of those moments that realistically could have changed the series in a drastic way. So I guess my question to you would be, what are some of those moments that you think were pivotal in determining the outcome of the series?
so I know there are a lot of three highlights that happened. I feel like what game changed were just little things that happened. First, when the series got away, or when we went up to the World Series, a lot of people go back to the Pontiac slide in, I believe it was the 10th inning or ninth, whenever we had the bases
I
loaded
think it
with
was
potential. I think it was the
I think it
10th
was the
inning.
ninth inning because yeah, because it
Wow.
could have been a walk
And
off.
if you watch the footage, he slides instead of swinging, and Will Smith takes his foot off the base. So I feel like if he had just kept sprinting and just ran straight for home plate and didn't slide, we might be in the World Series right now. I feel like that's something that's happened under the most.
I also feel that because like if you think about the way home plate is, I know they mentioned this a couple times throughout the series. It's not elevated. It's a flat surface. So when you slide feet first, it can happen like what happened to Smith catching the ball. It can happen to you sliding if your foot because there's not it's flat, so your foot can like kick up and you might miss the bag a little bit. Like to your point, if you just kept running full speed, because it's not a as as they say in Little League when they're teaching you, it's not a sticky base. You can run through it, or even if you slide head first, because it's not like he's trying to tag you. So there really isn't a need to slide or sliding head first, so you can make sure to get your hand on the base or on the plate rather. That definitely was super pivotal. I mean, literal inches away,
Yeah,
literally. So that's
that's what
definitely
sucks too. It's
definitely
just
a big
late
one.
winning the World Series. It's just insane. Another thing that I thought about um, was in Game Six, the Barger double that could have at least scored with the down 1 run. And I know Tyler was more the game plan. He
Yeah, for
decided to go
sure.
with the faster, fastest runner.
He
He scored
definitely
the first at bat.
would have
He
scored.
scored the first. Obviously, Berger does not score. He picks up the ball and he goes back to the infield. But he's had the renovations on the left for 3 years now. I've never once seen the ball hit his left arm before.
Worst time.
when we're down to a potential, zero out of double that can score right for being down one. I genuinely that I would love to see that.
I saw a video after the game of Mark DeRosa, who former Giant, is on the MLB Network. He went out to left field, left center field with a ball and a camera, and he tried over and over to as hard as he could. This is a former MLB player throwing the ball as hard as he could right in beneath the where the spot was, and he couldn't do it. He had to like lift up the wall and put the ball under there in order for it to stay. And that just goes to show like how once again literal inches from changing that game. And if you think about where you would have been if it didn't get stuck, obviously Straw scoring, and then Barger's on second, nobody out, with third base available for a bunt situation. Because who was up next? Was it Clement?
Clement is coming up after
Yeah. So a bunt
so
there brings it up. So if a bunt gets down with nobody out, a bunt gets in the third with your best contact hitter, um, one who's just red hot, would have been up at the plate with a chance
most hits
to
ever in a
to
postseason.
tie the game. Yeah, most hits ever in a postseason. Then there were a couple of records that were set. Clement with the hits, Varland with the appearances. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's definitely another moment that could have changed the series.
I do have one more I actually really want to talk about. It's all the way back in game three that 18 marathon game. And this is when we have bases loaded, two outs. When Kershaw came into the game. Um, and if he gets a full count, absolutely zero to no one walks with this limited time. We still have one. And I think they run it out. We still have about 9 times that we use our full movement and speed. If you might know how to the game yet, but Lucas swings at an obvious ball. He's swinging, it's 100%. It's really low.
Yeah.
It's well and away. He swings at it, it runs by. If he takes that ball, if you rewatch that play,
It was not only low, but it was low and away. It was.
yeah, I don't think there's anything about the tackle tackle to get it to. It's not like he had a break or anything. It just below the zone. It was just down and away. He takes that, the run, he can ball out.
He
And
he
that was
he took that same pitch for the first and fifth pitches of the at bat. Just looking at the chart here, but when
yeah,
it got to that was a two strike pitch that he took the fifth one. But when the pressure's on, man, bases loaded, full count. That another thing that could have changed the
time was on
series.
deck too. Time was on deck.
Easily could have changed the series.
Yeah. It's another thing from that game too. I just didn't even think about was I understand you're trying to win the game versus from a Lucas start.
Hmm.
I think try second to first. And maybe multiple times try to get run out. And you would maybe lose, but then you would run out. And maybe run out again. I don't think I'm going to start getting rules and that's what you can. It's not that way of taking big chances for runs
Hmm.
because you're not going to score every time you get it.
But it's Vladdy. But
Yeah, I
you
know
know
that's what I'm
who's
saying.
you know
It's
who's on
Vladdy.
deck.
You know who's on deck. Genuinely, there's probably it's a toss up between him and Corbett as the order we're thinking. But for him, Barnes doesn't have a ton of outs and he's the most single postseason hits throughout the history of any player. So I would say you have to come out and close. You just can't like I think it was 2 outs because he got called out home and that was the end. But still you gotta make it through that. Uh, there's a lot of mistakes that go into taking out for a pinch runner.
Taking out everybody. Taking out
That's that
Kirk for a
I
pinch
can't
runner.
let you do that.
Taking out Barger for a pinch runner.
Barger
Um,
and Kirk.
Barger,
So
Kirk,
it's
and
just like
Bichette. Bichette makes sense. Kirk made sense in the moment, but when you consider how that game ended up, it really, like I said before in my recap of that game, it felt like the Blue Jays offense was a non-factor, and it was just a matter of time before the Dodgers managed to win. It was heroic effort from both bullpens in that game, and that's another game that easily could have gone either way. Um, what I'm kind of thinking of are two smaller moments from uh, obviously Game 7 was the big one, but Game 2 was not necessarily talked about as much, where Kevin Gosman is just absolutely dealing on the mound. He gets two strikes against Will Smith. Can't remember if there were two outs. There was one out,
He was one.
and he just so good up until that point. 6 and a third innings pitched, 5 strikeouts, 1 earned run over 72 pitches, and he got the 2 strikes and he missed. He missed with a fastball inside, and Smith demolished it. And that was, if he gets that out there, who knows how much longer he could have kept going all the way. He could have gone toe to toe with Yamamoto in that game, and that's just kind of a smaller one where it wasn't even a bad pitch necessarily. It was just Smith put a great swing on it. And then also thinking about in Game 7, a similar situation where now Trey Savage had one of the greatest postseason runs I've ever seen, and I watched Madison Bumgarner pitch in the postseason, so that's really saying something. Um, but and like I was saying it every single time I even brought up his name, I would say afterwards, kind of like subconsciously almost, he's a 22-year-old rookie, 22-year-old rookie in his first ever big league season. Not even his first ever. He called up in September. He was an A ball. The broadcast team on Fox just talked about that nonstop about how he pitched in front of 370 people in his first his first game, first start of the year, and now here he is in World Series, and I think that's honestly like a huge factor. Where as good as he was, you forget he's a young guy, man, and putting him in on 1 day's rest to pitch the 7th and the 8th, and he came in to face Otani. He looked a little bit shaky, got out of it with a huge double play, and then Muncy tagged him in the 8th inning to bring it to one. And if you think about how the game could have played out, um, you know, could have played out if Muncy doesn't get that hit there, because Savage didn't give up another hit after that. And if he gets Muncy, Miguel Rojas is coming up with 2 outs, and a Hoffman has a 2-run cushion. He can really attack him more aggressively. Because obviously with Otani on deck, you're not going to pitch around him. But and if Otani were to reach, you're not going to walk him. Or if Otani were to come out, you're not going to walk him with game on the line. But it's that's just a big, it's kind of because there were obviously two much bigger homers after that from the Dodgers, but that's a pretty big moment in the series. Um, it just goes to show we could talk about this game for 2 more hours, and we could still have stuff to talk about afterwards. But it's just that is baseball. That's how it is. Game of inches. Game of inches. That's what they call it. But just talking about what this means for the sport in general. Um, I don't think it's as big as people are kind of making it out to be. Like obviously the Dodgers are signing everybody. They have unlimited money glitch going on, and they have just a complete monopoly over the Japanese baseball market as it seems. But I think the part that makes it even more kind of frustrating is this Dodgers team is not the same Dodgers team that was won the World Series last year. This team was vulnerable, and they had their flaws. The bullpen. There were two separate points this year. In June, the day before the Rafi Devers trade, we caught the Dodgers on a Friday night in LA where Webb had a nice game, and we tied them for the division lead. That was on like June 10th or something. And then August, when we were kind of out of it, here come the Padres, little brother coming in, and they caught the Dodgers too. And it just, this team wasn't as dominant as people were thinking they were going to be in the beginning of the season. This was the 3 seed. They had to play in the wild card, and that's why it's not as frustrating. Like, or it's not as bad. Like, oh, they bought the World Series. Like, they had to earn it, obviously. But there still is that factor of, well, hang on. If you look at their payroll and how many guys they have. So I guess, what are your kind of thoughts on that, and how this season went for the Dodgers, how it happened, how it came together, and how it ended?
Well, I think you're a better team than how you ended up running fast,
Hmm.
starting pitching. But to me, something that I know this is baseball, just how it works. You adjust things for the postseason. The fact that they didn't use a single round of their bullpen in Game 7 just shows how much of a weakness they had. And I feel like even running back, just go to the West to win the World Series. I felt like I'm not honestly surprised, but I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah.
surprised that we deserved it more.
Mm.
Just because the fact that they didn't surround their kind of all. And that's just, that's not really how baseball works at all in
Mhm.
regular season. So it's
Mhm.
like, you can change that to a postseason win. That doesn't mean you're a better team. And at the end of the day, they have back on the high to win all this whole. I'm not like, I don't have favorite record for the 56, but um, I'm not just like crediting anything they did because they're so phenomenal team. But they're amazing players. Pretty much everything that could have gone right for them in the series, Lawrence did go right for them. I don't think they had anything more significant bunker, significant double play in Game 6. Defense got to go back pretty much perfect. Rojas, on the IPF side, had to go back perfectly as well. He did. Caught his catching the ball to the field when he gets a PK. Yeah, he put that perfectly. He did. I'm saying, so it's like these little things that we force, not to our game, we force them to play, put them in difficult positions, and they did. Like,
It's kind of like how you guys beat the Yankees, right? That was how the Yankees go. Is like they have a great offense, but if you make them play defense, they could, you could really expose them and beat them. And you did the same thing with the Dodgers, and the difference was the Dodgers made the plays, and they made a ton of plays. So as much as I hate them, and I think they are just some of the, obviously, I don't hate any person in particular. I try not to hate anybody, but as players and as a team, I think they're the worst people on earth. And I honestly, this is payback for what we did as Warriors when we signed KD. This is payback for that. But now I know how that felt. But after we won two, you guys came in and beat us. So the Dodgers are definitely vulnerable, and kind of that point when the Warriors had that kind of dynasty going, it was like every team circled us on the calendar saying, okay, we gotta show up for this game. And I think that's what's gonna happen next year for the Dodgers is whenever they go into somewhere and they have to play somebody, they are gonna be getting the best version of that team because they are the standard. The Dodgers are the standard, and they're gonna try and come at them with everything they have. That's what we're trying to do. We're loading up to try and come at the Dodgers. Um, but they won this year, and that stinks.
I think a problem was how they really just didn't have any like setbacks during the entire postseason run. Aside from what they played us, they dismantled the Reds. The Reds just didn't do anything against them.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Phillies in four.
Four.
I think four. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were up 2-0 going back in LA.
And
I think they won both games
yeah.
in Philly, and then they swept the Brewers in the CS. So I felt like when I watched them, they had a hard time throwing out to me, and won their postseason like strong. I watched one game, I was like, oh, and the Brewers were the more phenomenal team.
Mm-hmm. They
But
just
the Angels had the same
dismantled
mentality
them.
unless they just hit a little less home runs, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I thought the Brewers would have put up a better fight. I said the Phillies, especially like against that net. The Phillies have amazing offense.
Mm-hmm.
They hit a lot of homers. They play pretty good defense. And they have good pitching. So I thought that they would have done better against the Dodgers. But they had some stuff that happened in the game. But like I said before, it makes it so much. I just really hope
Yeah. I think regardless of obviously we both do not like the Dodgers. Um, Me probably more so than you, but right now I bet you're right now you got that hate going. But I think just from a baseball fan unbiased perspective, this was one of, if not the best World Series I've ever seen. Probably anytime, like I've been saying for since your Game Sevens in the CS and the World Series, anytime you get a Game Seven, it's an absolute treat. It's just such a blessing to be able to watch extra baseball, and we got extra baseball, extra inning games, and two of the seven, and it's just unbelievable, entertaining World Series, and that's what made it so good. And why we can keep talking about this forever, but it was the a great end to a great season. Obviously, I would have liked the Giants to do a little bit better, but there. That's the thing about baseball, man. Is there's ups and downs, but you know, as long as you're like Willie Adamas and you're just having fun every day, you treat every day like it's opening day. It's gonna be a great year. You're gonna have fun, and that's what it is. It's a game, and I think all of us enjoyed this season, unless you're a Rockies fan. So that's gonna do it for today. No, Warriors did not play yesterday. They play on Tuesday. No Grand Prix yesterday. That's next week in Brazil. So we covered everything. This is the longest episode we've ever done. This was longer than my complete season retrospective for the Giants, which is crazy because that was 162 games, and this was one day, or at least the last week. But Noah, thank you. Noah, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It was absolute pleasure to have you, and I had a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
this was great. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate talking about this more private sports. So yeah,
Since this went so well, we'll probably do it again soon. Maybe not, soon, but definitely in the near future, we'll be talking about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support, especially Grant, who has left 3 comments in the last 2 videos. So I know he's out there watching. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Uh, I'll see you tomorrow, and everyone, have a great day.